Last month, I had one of the strangest experiences at a department store that still sends shivers down my spine. It was a typical evening, and I had gone to the store not for groceries, but to pick up a few electronics and accessories. The store was bustling with customers when I arrived, but by the time I reached the self-checkout area, things had taken an eerie turn. I queued up at a self-checkout kiosk near the exit, my items neatly scanned. As I completed my transaction, I noticed the screen flicker momentarily. Just a brief glitch, I assumed. I gathered my bag and stepped away. Out on the brightly lit concourse, I felt a peculiar chill despite the store's warmth. A faint, almost imperceptible murmur seemed to echo through the aisles, as if someone were whispering just out of earshot. I shook off the feeling and headed toward the exit, pushing my cart along. That's when I noticed something odd. A lone self-checkout machine in the corner continued to display the same transaction I had just completed. My heart thumped as I approached. "That's impossible," I muttered to myself. The screen now read, "Transaction pending. Please confirm payment." I pressed the cancel button, but the machine remained unresponsive. Just then, I heard a soft voice behind me, barely audible over the background music. "Help me, please," it whispered. I spun around, but there was no one in sight, only rows of neatly stocked shelves stretching into the distance. Feeling a mix of dread and curiosity, I returned to the kiosk. I attempted to log out, but each tap on the screen only seemed to intensify the flickering. The overhead lights began to dim as if someone had flipped a switch. My pulse raced as I glanced around the store. Shoppers passed by, unaware, while I stood frozen before the haunted machine. "Is someone there?" I asked aloud, my voice trembling. For a heartbeat, there was only silence. Then the screen flashed, and for a split second, I saw a distorted face in the reflection behind the glass, as if someone were watching me. I jumped back, nearly dropping my bag. I bolted for the exit, adrenaline spurring me on. Outside, under the neon glow of the parking lot lights, I fumbled for my phone and dialed 911 II, reported a technical glitch, and described the strange occurrence. The operator tried to reassure me, but even as I waited for assistance, the words of that ghostly plea echoed in my mind. "Help me, please." I eventually left the store, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been left behind, a transaction never completed, a spirit caught between worlds. I later learned that the department store was built on the site of an old service station where, decades ago, a cashier had mysteriously vanished. I still wonder if that lost soul was trying to reach out through the machine, desperate for resolution. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I passed a self-checkout kiosk, I'd remember the flickering screen and that pleading voice. It remains one of the most unnerving experiences I've ever had. Proof, perhaps, that even the most ordinary places can hide paranormal secrets. It started as an ordinary shopping trip on a rainy evening. I'd ventured into a sprawling department store to pick up a few items for a friend. The building was grand and well lit, filled with the hum of conversation and the scent of new merchandise. But as I made my way to the upper floors via the escalator, the atmosphere began to change. I stepped onto the escalator, the smooth metal steps carrying me upward. Halfway up, I noticed an unsettling stillness in the background, an almost imperceptible shadow that didn't match any of the other shoppers. At first, I dismissed it as a trick of the light. The escalator's mechanical rhythm provided a hypnotic soundtrack, lulling me into a sense of complacency. Then, I heard a soft scraping sound behind me. "Hello?" I called out, but only the steady clatter of the escalator answered. The feeling of being watched grew stronger. I glanced over my shoulder and saw, for a fleeting moment, a dark silhouette lingering at the top of the escalator. The figure stood completely still as if frozen in time, and I could swear it was watching me. My heart began to race. Maybe it's just a maintenance worker, I tried to rationalize, yet deep down, dread crept in. I reached the top, stepped off onto the polished floor, and tried to shake off the sensation. I made my way toward the customer service area, but the image of that silent, unmoving figure haunted me. Later, while browsing a clothing aisle, I heard the escalator again, its mechanical drone a constant reminder. I couldn't resist looking toward the escalator, and that's when I saw it again. The same dark shape, now closer, as if it had descended a few steps. I felt my pulse quicken as I edged away, deciding that I needed to leave. I hurried to the nearest exit, my footsteps echoing in the vast corridor. When I finally burst out into the cool night air in the parking lot, I glanced back at the store's glass facade. For a moment, in the reflection of the rain-soaked windows, I saw the dark silhouette standing near the escalator entrance, staring. I froze, a chill crawling over my skin. I called a friend to recount what had happened, my voice shaking as I described the silent stalker. "It's like he was waiting for me," I said. My friend suggested it might be a prank or an elaborate store decoration, but I knew what I saw wasn't ordinary. Days later, I returned to the store with a colleague to investigate. We reviewed security footage, and while the image was grainy, we caught a glimpse of a figure on the escalator that matched my description. The mystery deepened when no one could confirm the presence of any employee fitting that profile. That night, I couldn't sleep, and every time I took an escalator, I'd glance over my shoulder. The experience remains a chilling reminder that even in the most routine places, something may be lurking in the shadows, watching silently as you ascend. I'd always loved browsing through department stores for the sheer spectacle of it all. The dazzling displays, the polished floors, and the endless rows of merchandise. One evening, I found myself wandering through the cosmetic and fashion floors of a well-known department store after closing time. The building was quiet now, the usual chatter replaced by a profound silence. I wandered into the women's dressing room area, where rows of ornate mirrors hung on the walls. As I passed by one particularly large mirror, something caught my eye. In the reflection, behind my own image, I saw movement, a flicker of something that shouldn't be there. I stopped in my tracks, heart pounding. "Hello?" I whispered, turning slowly to see if someone was there. The room was empty, the only sound was the faint hum of the air conditioning, yet the mirror's surface seemed to ripple as if disturbed by an unseen force. I took a hesitant step closer, noticing that the reflection didn't match the room perfectly. It was as if an extra figure draped in shadows lingered just behind me. I tried to convince myself it was my imagination, but then I heard a soft sigh emanating from the mirror itself. "Please, help me." The voice was distant, yet filled with an overwhelming sadness. My pulse raced as I leaned in, eyes locked on that spectral image. It appeared to be a woman in old-fashioned attire, her eyes sorrowful and pleading. I fumbled for my phone, intending to record the encounter, but the screen went dark, leaving only the mirror's haunting glow. "Who are you?" I asked, voice trembling. The reflection seemed to flicker and then fade, leaving behind a lingering feeling of despair. I backed away, unsure if I'd witnessed something paranormal or if the mirror was playing tricks on me. I spent the next few minutes in the empty corridor, my mind racing with possibilities. I recalled that the store had once been built on the site of a historical mansion, rumored to have lost its mistress under mysterious circumstances. Had her spirit somehow become trapped in that mirror, reaching out to those who dared to look? Unable to shake the experience, I reported it to store management the next day. They hesitated, but eventually checked the surveillance footage. Although the images were grainy, they confirmed an odd, inexplicable shimmer in the dressing room that evening. The incident was quietly recorded as a technical anomaly. Even now, when I pass by that department store or catch my reflection in any mirror, I sometimes think I see a flicker of a sorrowful face behind me, a reminder that some reflections hide more than just our own images. The experience left me with a haunting question. What secrets do these mirrors truly hold? One rainy evening, I visited a sprawling department store known for its exceptional customer service. I'd been there earlier that day for a routine purchase and was returning to pick up a special order from the customer service counter. The store was nearly empty, its usual hustle replaced by a quiet, almost oppressive calm. As I approached the counter, I noticed a digital display reading, "Order ready, please collect." Behind the counter, a young assistant in a crisp uniform was arranging paperwork. I called out, "Hi, I'm here for my order," but the assistant didn't respond. Confused, I waited a few moments. Then I heard a soft shuffle and a door creak behind the counter. I turned, expecting to see someone, but the space was empty. "Hello?" I repeated, louder this time. The only reply was the hum of the store's air conditioning and the rhythmic drip of water from the overhead lights. I stepped forward and peered into the back office. Nothing but rows of filing cabinets and a dimly lit room greeted me. I returned to the counter, puzzled and uneasy. Then, as I reached for my phone to check my order confirmation, I noticed that the digital display had changed. Instead of my name, it now read, "Assistant missing." My heart skipped a beat. "What does that even mean?" I murmured. I tried to call out again, "Is anyone there?" But the response was only silence. I hurried over to the service desk and pressed the emergency help button. A voice crackled over the intercom. "Please remain calm. Assistance is on its way." I waited, every minute stretching into an eternity. Finally, a manager appeared, his face pale and apologetic. He explained that there had been a minor incident in the back office. A glitch, he said, but he couldn't provide details. That explanation did little to ease my growing dread. I left the store quickly, the mysterious disappearance of the assistant gnawing at my thoughts. Over the next few days, rumors began to circulate among employees. Some said the assistant had been seen earlier that day on the floor chatting with a customer. Others whispered about strange lights and sounds coming from the back office after closing. I've since learned that this department store was built on the remnants of an old warehouse, once used as a storage facility for a defunct company. There were legends of a worker who had vanished without a trace, his name never recorded. Was it possible that his restless spirit had taken over the role of the missing assistant? I still visit that store from time to time, but the experience left me with a deep sense of unease. Every time I see that digital display, I can't help but wonder if there's more to the story, a hidden presence quietly watching, waiting to vanish into thin air. I used to love spending Saturday mornings wandering through department stores, marveling at their elaborate window displays and the bustle of daily commerce. One chilly morning, I decided to visit an old historic store known for its vintage charm. The store was almost empty, the lights dimmed in a way that gave everything an ethereal glow. I strolled through the aisles of the home goods department, admiring the antique furniture and classic decor. As I passed a display of ornate silverware and vintage porcelain, I felt a sudden drop in temperature. A chill ran down my spine, and I paused to listen. In the silence, I heard a soft clinking sound, as if delicate objects were being moved around. I dismissed it at first as a quirk of the old building, but then the sound grew louder, almost rhythmic. I turned a corner into the vintage home decor section, where the atmosphere was thick with nostalgia and a hint of sorrow. The shelves were lined with faded photographs in ornate frames, and the air was heavy with the scent of old wood and dust. In the far corner, I noticed a peculiar display, a set of old hand-painted figurines arranged on a table that looked too pristine for the rest of the store. As I approached, I could swear I heard a faint whisper, a plea perhaps, coming from the figurines, as if their painted eyes were pleading for release. "Don't leave me," the whisper seemed to say. I froze, my heart pounding. "This is absurd," I muttered, trying to convince myself it was just the wind. But the sound persisted, growing clearer with every step. I backed away slowly, but the temperature continued to drop. I felt as though invisible hands were grazing my skin. In a moment of panic, I hurried to the exit. Outside, the world seemed normal, the cold replaced by the crisp air of a new day, yet the memory of that haunted section lingered. I later learned from an old article that the building had once served as a boarding house for elderly artisans, a place where many spent their final days crafting beautiful, intricate works of art. It was rumored that the spirits of these forgotten souls still roamed the store, bound to the treasures they left behind. Even now, every time I pass that department store, I remember the soft, sorrowful whisper and the eerie feeling that I had just witnessed something that defies explanation. It remains one of the most unsettling experiences of my life, a reminder that sometimes the past clings to the present in the most unexpected of places.